Updating the free agent field for the Phoenix Suns and answering your questions. All of it coming right up on Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. I am your host, Brendon Kleen. I cover the Suns and the NBA for Dime Magazine and this here podcast. You can follow me at Brendon Kleen 14. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On PHX Suns. And yes, it is Mailbag Day. I'm going to do some housekeeping at the top of the show and then answer your questions on a ton of stuff. Sun stuff and non-Sun stuff. Got some questions on the Mercury. The Phoenix Mercury, who my Premier League team is, what does success look like, who in the NBA is one win away, tons and tons of questions. But I think we'll get to some of them here off the top because I do, again, want to do some roster talk, some free agency talk, some NBA talk again. So I'll get to some of the questions without actually answering the question specifically. Thank you to Rodrigo. Thank you to Antilocos, to Eugenios 05, KD's Burner, Durag Hoops, all of it. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll get all of them, hopefully sort of in the course of business. I wanted to say off the top of the show, though, first of all, welcome to any of you who have kept through into the early days of September. Happy Labor Day weekend. If you are around the house, maybe on a drive, whatever it might be, thank you for listening. I know we're in the dog days of the off season. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. I'm giving away a Kelly Oubre bobblehead that I always forget to actually have here with me. It is flush with AirPods, with Converse, with the Poppy jacket, all of it. So that can be yours if we get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm hoping we can get there before the end of this, before the beginning of the season. Rather, we're about 30% of the way there. And if we get there, I would love to keep doing giveaways. So help us. Tell any Suns fan you know, tell any sports fan you know, any NBA fan you know to subscribe. Even if you like to just listen, giving that subscription over on YouTube is obviously awesome as well. Welcome to all of you who are watching here. The viewership and support has been great, so thank you to everybody. Also, a quick thank you while I'm on the topic to all of you readers at Bright Side of the Sun who graciously thanked me and expressed your support. Nice, kind words from all of you on the comment section as well as on Twitter. I appreciate all of you guys. It's cool because obviously I see the numbers of some of this stuff, and that's sometimes the only way to know, like, are people reading, are people watching, are people listening, and to actually hear and sort of put, I guess, not faces to names, but maybe usernames to the numbers in this case was awesome. So, not going anywhere. This show's not changing. As I said on, I believe on Wednesday's show, I talked about a little bit. Nothing about Locked On Suns is going to be any different at all. Might have some, we might get the show a little bit more formulaic by opening night. But as far as I'm not changing my commitment, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not cutting back. So that is all not to be worried about. But I'm not going to be writing about the Suns as much. It does feel very odd. I've been with Brightside. It was my first home ever writing about the Suns, and it was the one I kept the longest here. I, cut back on a lot of other things where I was writing when I got my full-time job. This podcast was one of the only things I was really doing, but I wanted to keep writing at Brightside because it just felt weird not to, frankly. So leaving is a little weird. 6+ years over there, and even longer as a member of that community. So you'll notice in the intro, I'm no longer going to be saying SB Nation. That is why, and thank you to all of you who did give that support. It was very much appreciated. But let's get to some of this NBA news. Don't have much to add on Ben Simmons. I don't think there's really much from a Suns perspective to say there. I'm very fascinated to see where he does end up. It seems pretty likely that trade is going to happen sometime here in the next few weeks. Training camps are about 3 weeks away, and Simmons has basically made it seem like he has no intention of suiting up for the Philadelphia 76ers. Seems like the consensus is that waiting is only going to make things worse. So Minnesota, Sacramento, Toronto, I don't exactly know what to expect, but I'm interested. It just doesn't have a lot of bearing on the Suns. So for better or worse, the Suns are kind of out of the running on a lot of that stuff, at least as far as I can tell. I just don't think he's a fit with Ayton. If he was a different type of superstar, I wouldn't necessarily say the Suns are out on it, but he's a point forward, a point power forward guy who really can't shoot. So as a fit with DeAndre Ayton, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. As a fit with Chris Paul, frankly, it's bizarre as well. So we'll watch from afar and then as Suns fans and followers and see how that plays out. But the real thing I wanted to get to, not as newsy as a former number 1 overall pick changing teams on his second contract, but it is interesting, is the forwards that are remaining here. And this is where I'll get to some of these questions a little bit from all of you on Twitter. That's at Locked On PHX Suns, just for future reference. But Paul Millsap is now a Brooklyn Net. And I think the ship had sailed on him becoming a part of this franchise a long time ago. John Gambadoro, like a month ago at this point, had reported that the Suns were not expected to have interest. I don't exactly know why. I do think it's a mistake. I'm not giving them necessarily a pass on not pursuing somebody who I do think fits quite well here, and the versatility, as a Šarić replacement first and foremost, but as a different look as a small ball center type of guy. If they are able to get something done with a Thaddeus Young or someone else like that, which I'll get to in a moment, I don't think losing out on Millsap is a huge deal, but he was one of the last real, I think, I don't even want to say difference makers, but at the very least, one of the last players left on the market who you could actually see playing in a playoff game. That's really, I think, the best way to put it. So he is now over to Brooklyn, and we'll see if he really does do that. That team is pretty stacked. I have a feeling they might factor into a future question in the second or third segment here on NBA championship odds. I think that they will come up. But the other big news in terms of those forwards available on the market is Lamarcus Aldridge. And I believe that Gambo had also said that he didn't think that the Suns would have interest in Aldridge. I think it was less firm than it was with Millsap. So I don't expect the Suns to go after him necessarily for a couple of reasons, but I do think Shams Charania reporting today that he is basically fully cleared medically. The heart murmurs, whatever it was that he was having, didn't end up preventing him from playing. If you'll remember, he wasn't sidelined by medical staff. He retired because he openly said it freaked him out. It was a scare, and medically, and I can't even imagine the actual physical feeling of having to go through that. So I get it, but he seems like he is on track to be able to play this season. I don't love that option a ton. I think, with your 15th roster spot, understanding that Dario Šarić is out, understanding that Frank Kaminsky still is not a proven playoff commodity, and that JaVale McGee is not the most versatile player ever. I think it's not a terrible option. I think as a bench scorer, you could do a lot worse than Lamarcus Aldridge. Toss it into him, get some points out of that. I don't think that's terrible. I just think the flexibility part is what I'm really looking for. Who can do a little bit of what Šarić did on offense in terms of being able to move the ball and shoot, and ideally, give them a different look at the defensive anchor spot. So Ayton and McGee are pretty similar. They're going to be, dropping into the paint, protecting the rim. I think you do want somebody who can do a little bit of different things, which is why Millsap was interesting, which is why Thaddeus Young was interesting, and, why I'm not super high on necessarily Aldridge as a fit. I think he overlaps with what Kaminsky gives you a little bit. He just doesn't do anything individually that's better than what the Suns currently have, Lamarcus Aldridge. So we'll see. I think he will play. I think he'll probably want to go to a contender. It remains to be seen if the Suns will pursue him. I don't think it would be awful. I just think there's better options out there, which brings me last but not least to Thaddeus Young, who I nicknamed Tradius Young on the YouTube page in our last episode, but not anything new with regard to him. The newness is Jalen Smith. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype reporting shortly after I published that episode, which didn't really change much, but of course is just bad timing, that Jalen Smith is on the market, that the Suns are looking at potential deals involving Smith. We had heard that sort of through the grapevine here and there over the course of the offseason so far. It was pretty obvious that the Suns were trying to showcase him, that they were looking into how can we make this guy look good and what can we get for him. And so it really just puts more fire to the smoke that we had already been seeing. But it's worth noting, a reporter that I trust who is sort of saying that he's hearing from multiple teams now that there is an availability for Jalen Smith. It's interesting. I still think trade for somebody like a Thaddeus Young is the way to go. That versatility, flexibility, two-way potential is what stands out to me. It's just a matter of, is Smith attractive enough, appealing enough that it'll get a trade like that done? I think that's where you really just can't tell. I think obviously the fact that nothing has happened yet makes you lean toward no, which is unfortunate. We'll just have to see really what happens going forward. Let's take a quick break and get to your questions again. I will give my I will give a prediction of the Suns record. It'll really just be spitballing. For my own mental health, really dived into exactly what the standings might look like, but we'll get into all of it in just a second. First, though, a quick word from BetOnline AG. BetOnline has 3 major deals for you to take advantage of this football season. We are shockingly close to the start of the NFL season. Firstly, odds, props, and contests all season long, starting with the internet's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest, as well as the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest, both open now at BetOnline. Also, when you sign up, start there. Use the promo code LOCKEDON to get a 100% welcome bonus. They are doubling your first deposit when you make an account at BetOnline. If you're fumbling back and forth, am I going to make an account? Am I going to bet this year? Am I finally going to take the plunge? Or maybe you're unhappy with your current betting app or website. Go ahead and head to BetOnline, the number one source, and making football season a ton more fun. They will double your welcome bonus. Okay. Last but not least, be sure to take advantage of their opening day super promo by making a bet on the Thursday, September 9th season opener between the Super Bowl champion Bucs and the Dallas Cowboys. If you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25, even if it loses. Again, that's only for new customers when you sign up using the promo code NFL100. That's promo code NFL100 to get your wager refunded up to $25 if you lose on that opening night matchup. If you win, you don't need a refund. You are rolling in it. So BetOnline, once again, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, including football, all season long. So make it your number one stop. Change to BetOnline. Go to BetOnline. And if you've never made a bet before, I don't know what you're doing, but this is the year for you. This is the season for you, and BetOnline is the place for you. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Today's show also brought to you by the solution to a problem we are all familiar with. You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You got sports highlights going on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. Well, again, a simple way to get all that entertainment that you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV all together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and they are the sponsor of today's show. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can catch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. The best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Okay. Back here talking your questions, answering your questions. Again, a huge thank you to Rodrigo and Antelocos in particular. I believe they gave 3 or 5 each, so I appreciate that a lot. Rodrigo, I answered a few of your questions there, roster spot wise, Thad Young wise, and the extension stuff I've touched on before. So I'm not gonna hit that. I hope that covers things. I want to start with actually Durag Hoops' question. It is a little bit Suns related, so I'll start there before we veer completely off track. If we can get enough of these questions that are not Suns related, some of the other hosts on the network will do everything but team. So this would be everything but Suns mailbag. I would be down. If Brandon on Monday, if that's a good option, you guys let me know. I'm down to do sort of all the other stuff, types of mailbags, especially in September, especially as NFL season starts, because I am ready to deliver some Cardinals takes. They might not make anybody happy, but I am ready for them. Okay, but Durag Hoops, your question: who do you feel is just one trade away from winning the title? If given the chance, would you accept the GM position to this team and execute the trade if you knew it was guaranteed to be accepted? I like that question. I have two answers. I did think about this one a little bit. So I will first state that I think in their current iteration, the Bucks, the Nets, the Suns, and the Clippers and Lakers, I would say, are the teams I think are contenders without a trade. So I kind of didn't really include them here. And I didn't include the Sixers. I think of them as a contender in some ways, but it's pretty obvious they're going to make this trade, so that would be ruining the fun. I'm not going to say, oh, Ben Simmons for whatever, because that's about to happen. So it basically excluding all of those squads. My answers are both in the West, because I think the West has a lot more boom or bust. The East is very top-heavy, but I don't see a lot of the lower-level Eastern teams being able to make that leap quite yet. So both of my answers are for the West. I'm going to start with the Utah Jazz. It's not what you think. I don't necessarily feel like they would need to get rid of Rudy Gobert. That's probably what most people would think. But I think that they still are missing that piece to be extra flexible in terms of lineups. I don't think the answer is to get rid of Gobert. I think the answer is to not need Gobert, which, of course, is its own can of worms. He's worth a certain amount of money. He's a player you want to earn the respect and trust of, so benching him or something like that is very difficult in its own way. But if you could get a piece, a flexible sort of small ball option, or at least somebody who would allow you to play a little bit differently. Maybe it even is still with Gobert on the floor, but somebody who can make up for some of those differences, like make up for some of those weaknesses, rather. Like, I don't know, Pascal Ciaco, as a player who I think could potentially be available. Having him in the mix would be an interesting dynamic for them. Plays defense, but is a little bit more switchable. I don't think he's really a center, but maybe you could get away with it in a pinch. And he's also able to shoot and score for himself, flipping Mike Conley for him or something like that. I think that's where I would look. I think Donovan Mitchell can be the engine of an elite offense. I really like what Bogdanovich gives them. I just think Conley, to me, I think you can have a lesser version of Conley, somebody to basically orchestrate the offense a little bit for Utah, because you do need that regimentation. Because when they didn't run offense once Conley got hurt against the Clippers, when we all went into the end of that series being like, wow, we're getting a Jazz Suns conference finals. Who would have thought? What a world. And then it fell apart because Conley wasn't there to initiate the offense. You need somebody to do that. I don't think they need to be Mike Conley. I think you could get away with somebody a little bit worse, better than Ricky Rubio, worse than Mike Conley. I think you can get away with that, and then put that money and resources into a combo big man forward wing option who's a little bit better than what they have. That's what I would really like, and he can take some of those elite matchups. So that's the trade for the Jazz. Conley for somebody on the wing. The other one would be the Mavericks. And again, it doesn't necessarily need to be a trade of Kristaps Porzingis, because again, I don't think he solely is the issue, but I think it's the degree to which they rely on him that is more so the problem. So with that said, I think it doesn't need to be that you're giving up Porzingis, but the problem with the Mavs is they don't really have salaries that allow them to easily flip. There's no Mike Conley level player on their team that's like sort of a third near max player. So basically, it's not going to be Hardaway. It's not going to be Luka. You're talking about combining a bunch of players. I don't know what the trade would be, but again, it's very similar. They don't have that elite wing talent. I think Dorian Finney-Smith is pretty good. Obviously, Tim Hardaway is become very great in his role, but he's not a wing necessarily. He's really just a shooter. He's more of a combo guard than he is like a wing. He's not elite by any means on defense. So they need somebody that could be a scoring, like a 3-and-D plus type of player, to really take them to that next level. And that's asking a lot. Any team in the league could really use that, but I'm trying to think of like a name of a player who could reasonably be available to them. I mean, like Jalen Brown, I don't think he's super available, but if they had a player like that who could take some perimeter defensive matchups and also create offense for himself, that would be huge. And shoot, all of that, that would be massive. And you saw them, they went after Reggie Bullock, players like that, Seth Curry the past couple of off seasons. They clearly know they need shooting. They clearly know that they need complementary pieces for Luka, but they just don't have that star level player that's in that role. So that would be the one, and that would catapult them to being a contender, I think, in a really real way. So those are my quick answers for you. I will pivot now to some one last Suns question. This one's from Antilocos at Antilocos on Twitter. What does success look like this year? He said he'd expect some regression just due to how great last season was. It's actually the reason I wanted to do this one is I went on Locked On Nuggets recently, and today I went on, I don't know when it'll air, talking about the Suns. And one of the things that came up in that interview was, did the Suns actually overperform? Because I've talked about this, but Matt Moore, who hosts Locked On Nuggets, he's at Hardwood Paroxysm. I'm sure you all know who he is at HP Basketball. His big thing was like, so much went right. And it wasn't even that the team was just great, overperformed. It's also they were healthy. They didn't really get hit with the COVID stuff that much. And they were able to really hit the ground running in an unexpected way. So if any of that stuff suffered, well, not really. I guess they went through, January was rough, but after that they basically flew. So if any of that stuff doesn't go quite as well, are you running into issues? I think where I come down on it is during the regular season, I think they'll be just as good. I really do think that they should get a top 3 seed. I think they're going to be right there with the Lakers and the Jazz to get a top 3 seed. I think they'll have more depth this year. I think that they will also just be more cohesive. They've been through a whole finals run together. They should have each other's backs and be a little bit smarter as a team. So that's the case. I just think the playoffs is where you're looking, and it's just hard for me to predict right now. It's hard for me to say without knowing what any roster will look like, without knowing who the matchups are, any of that. It's hard for me to say yes or no to a given, postseason distance. I think that they should at least make the second round. I think anything less than that would feel pretty disappointing. But the playoffs are so much based upon health and matchups that for me, I just can't say right now. So I actually disagree, Antilocos. I think that they will be right there in the regular season. It's just the postseason that, betting on anybody to make the finals 2 seasons in a row, NBA history tells us, sports history tells us, is almost impossible to do. So that's not great news, but that's just the facts. So that's where I land. That'll be it for this segment. I'm going to answer some nonsense questions to wrap us up. I'll save those all for the end. And then at the very, very end, I'll give my initial prediction for the Suns record. First, though, a quick word from Rock Auto. We all know how frustrating and honestly infuriating it can be when your car breaks down and you get a one-stop trip to the dealership or retail storefront. Not only is your car broken, but you have to go deal with these jerks who are just going to try to nickel and dime you. Rock Auto steps in to solve that entire problem right in its tracks. You log onto their website, no account necessary, no subscription necessary. You just type in the car that you have, scroll down to the part that you need, click purchase, and it's at your door in days. Easy to use website, family business serving auto parts customers for 20 years. They're not going to screw you because you're not ordering in bulk. They're not going to screw you because you didn't, necessarily come in knowing everything that you needed. Rock Auto makes it easy. They make it simple. They make it cheap, and they make it quick. That's all you need to know. And I think that's enough to convince you to try it out, because in and of itself, not having to walk into that darn store and deal with that is plenty. For those of you who have had to do that, you all know how much of a pain it can be. Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Today's show also brought to you by Built Bar, the healthiest candy bar ever and my favorite protein bar, packed with protein, 17 to 18 grams, all in a bar that is only 180 calories on the absolute maximum. Every single bar is soft and easy to chew, covered in 100% chocolate, and every single flavor is delicious. I can tell you without a doubt. I've tried each and every Built Bar that has ever been created, and I've loved every single one. Truly, I've never had one that I did not like. Even like the fruit isn't my thing. It's one of those where I hear about the flavors and I'm a little bit nervous. I love double chocolate. I love salted caramel. I love coconut. But I see the fruit flavors and I get a little bit like, I don't think that's going to be for me. Nope. You open it up and it's perfect. It really, somehow they put protein and chocolate in with fruit, and you would think that it would not be your thing. Maybe some of you are listening and you just think, of course, that sounds delicious. But I was squeamish about it. They convinced me completely, and that was it. By that point, I'm like, okay, if I like those also, then there's nothing left here. I fully am in on Built Bar, and I love every single bar that I've tried. Order today. Get these summer exclusives like strawberry orange or German chocolate, or your old favorites like double chocolate by going to Built.com and using the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at Built.com. Okay, closing out the show with some non-Suns thoughts here. I will start with Antilocos. What Premier League team did you go with? And let's hope it wasn't Chelsea. I have actually not decided. I've really tried to dive into soccer. I would say right now it's obviously not a Premier League team, but I'm trying to get in on this, like to really dive into and enjoy the World Cup qualifiers from now all the way through next winter. Basically, there's going to be World Cup stuff to enjoy, and I really feel good about the U.S. men's national team. Maybe I'm convincing myself otherwise. We have this World Cup, and then of course the one that the U.S. will be hosting. So I'm trying to get onto that bandwagon, and I have not necessarily settled in onto a Premier League team. I am realizing that some of my qualms about the NFL or other men's leagues in this here country are not exclusive to America, that there are some questionable dudes who play for Premier League teams, and that's unfortunate. I know you said hopefully it's not Chelsea, the ownership situation there and the culture and the fan base, I get, rubs people the wrong way. I think that's still honestly where I'm leaning. I know that is a complete bandwagon move, and that there is those hesitations about that squad. But at the same time, I just have to, again, the U.S. men's national team connection, I just feel like I have to root for Christian Pulisic. I can't grow up at the same time as this dude who's like this beacon of hope for men's soccer in America and then not root for the team that he plays for abroad. So that's probably where I'm leaning in the short term. Unfortunately, Antilocos, I'm sorry. That's just how it is. You don't pick a bad team. Like if you're getting into a league for the first time, we all like to pretend like we want to get in on the underdog, but nobody does. So I might just be a front runner a little bit. That's fine with me. Okay, Rodrigo Quitano. How far can the Mercury go in this year's playoffs? I think they've won, Rodrigo, and you probably know this because you asked. I believe that they have won like 7 or 8 games in a row. And I was already completely ready to say this is a failure of a season. The coach is getting fired. Diana Taurasi needs to retire. Fully done. Get it out of my face. I don't want to care about this team anymore. For those of you who don't know, who have maybe not listened for a long time, I've been covering the Mercury for about 4 or 5 seasons. And I, this year, really have taken a step back just with the full-time job and the Suns making the finals, all that stuff. So I'm watching this from afar in a different way than I'm used to. It's very weird. Yeah, the Mercury 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins in a row. Their next game will be on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And they should win that one. It's against the Fever. So I feel really optimistic. They're somehow 4th in the league, if I'm not mistaken here. They are way above 500. This is looking like it could be one of the best regular seasons they've had in a while. Brittany Griner and Skylar Diggins-Smith both look like they're at the absolute top of their game. I don't know what that'll look like in the playoffs because I just still don't necessarily trust their defense. I can't help myself but worry about that defense. Just with Taurasi being on the floor so much, Diggins-Smith being on the floor, those players are not necessarily elite defenders. but they have that front court with Turner and Griner. And if the offense is clicking and they can get it done on defense, if they can finally get some rebounds, which has been such a problem for them for so long, look, I feel better now than I have probably since 2018. So in the WNBA playoffs, everything is it's just luck, really. There's 1 game rounds, there's 5 game rounds. At the end, it's about getting hot. It's about star power. So if their stars keep playing that well and they can get a little bit of balance to their game, I think that they really could make a pretty deep run here. I'm excited to see what they do. Let's see. No other non-Suns questions. Again, please send as many of those in as you possibly want here. I know we are running out of Suns things until the extensions for Bridges and Ayton come down, until they do maybe make a trade or fill out that 15th roster spot. There is not much news to go around. So please do send those in. We'll be doing more stuff. Obviously, Brandon will be coming in every week, but I'm all for having some fun. So appreciate any of those questions as well. But Suns record, the question from Eugenius05 was the Suns record in the first 30 games. I don't know. I don't think of it that way necessarily. Maybe you just, are they going to get out to a hot start was sort of your question. I think their record is pretty smooth, all things considered. I feel pretty comfortable saying so what's weird to me is they were 51-31, I believe, last year. And so seeing the line, which at a lot of books is 51.5, I think that's what BetOnline has. And me feeling like, oh, they're a good bet to get the over because, well, they just won 51 in a 72-game season, and now it's about to be an 82-game season again. And, of course, they should improve. Obviously, there is an injury risk. Booker and Paul both stayed healthy last year. Betting any team to be a mid-50s win squad is obviously a long shot, similar to what I was just saying about the finals. It's unlikely to ever, double dip in the finals back-to-back years. It's also pretty hard to predict that every team's going to win or that a team is going to win mid-50s games every year. That's very difficult. But I just look at it and I just feel like they're going to be better in the regular season than they were last year. I think their offense is going to be top 10 again, and I think their defense should be able to do the same because of DeAndre Ayton's improvements and the depth that they have and the backup center spot being filled. So I just look and I feel like I'm at least going to hit the over on 51.5, and I feel like they should at least be able to stay afloat from last year's winning percentage. And if you spread that over an 82-game season, that's a pretty solid year. It's definitely hitting the over, and I don't want to overreact. So if they had last year's winning percentage in an 82-game season, they would win 58 games. I'm not going to predict them to win 58. That's just not a smart bet in any way, but I'll say 55. That's easily getting the over. It's not quite hitting that same winning percentage and getting that 58 win margin, but that's what I'll hit. I'll just say 55. I'll probably change it 5 times between now and opening night. And I'll probably be wrong. Even whatever I land on by opening night, I'm sure I will also be wrong by the end of the season. But that might be simple. That's just how I see it. I think they're going to be as good, if not better, than last season. And you spread that over 82 games, and you get a good win total. I think that's it. So that's my prediction for now. Thank you for all the questions, everybody. Off for the weekend. I probably am going to have to take Monday off. I think what we're going to do next week is do Wednesday through Friday instead of I'm going to be out of town this weekend. So rather than Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think we'll do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So be on the lookout for that. A little bit of a break here from the show over the long weekend. Enjoy it. Hopefully you're listening to this show while you are celebrating. Enjoy the day off of work. The one that the overlords have gifted us with Labor Day here. So take advantage of it, relax, take a load off, enjoy your family, enjoy whatever it is that you have going on. Football, college football, whatever it is. Until then, until we talk next, enjoy everything. And let's hope we get some Suns news before we meet again.